All right, I am satisfied. I believe that all the old orange coolant is completely out of the motor. I did end up running about 2 gallons of distilled water through the entire system. Now it is time to remove both the upper and lower radiator hoses because I did buy the Mishimoto radiator hoses. So we will have to reuse the clamps, but let's get those off and I will go from there. All right, so now that your hoses are out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect these 2 hoses. These are called ancillary hoses and they run to your coolant overflow tank. So let's go ahead and get these disconnected. One is just Prestone, while the other one has one of those funny little clips on it. So let's see if I can do this one-handed. Just wanna squeeze together and then wiggle until you can push it back. You might need to use these as a little bit of a helper. Let's see if I can get these placed right. Sorry if there's a lot of wind noise in here. It's very windy today. I'm not real sure why, but you just want to give it a little up and down wiggle just to kind of help it. Set that down somewhere and then simply pull them off. Next, what you're going to want to do is pull them. There's little clips that run along here, very convenient, but little clips that hold all these hoses in. And you're just going to want to pull those out of the way and get your hoses away from the radiator. Next, you're going to want to remove your fan shroud connectors. So you have a little connector back here, a little button you press in, and it should just pull right out. Same with this smaller one, little button back here. So press and pull back. Might be a little more difficult. If I had it in frame there, huh? But you're gonna wanna remove both of those, make sure that's out of your way. And now, these little tabs, these little tabs right here in the middle of the screen, you have to press those down as you pull your AC condenser up to release it. And I can't show you that because I need 2 hands, but that's all you gotta do. So once you have those tabs removed, you slightly pull up on your AC condenser and it now is wiggled free. So you have radiator stays on either side of your radiator, and they're right here. You take a big flathead screwdriver and you simply push up or push in and pull up. They should pop right out. So do that for the other side as well. Just right here. Kind of lifts right up and it should slide right out. Now, I have a manual car, and the manual radiators and the automatic radiators are different, and here's how. The automatics actually have a built-in transcooler, and they have big 19mm lines that run into either side or one side. I don't actually know, but you will have a silver 19mm line that runs into one side or the other or both of your radiator if you have an automatic car. Now, because I have a manual, I do not have this, but the new Mishimoto radiator does have line or holes that you can use and utilize for either the manual or the automatic transmissions. So if you have an automatic, you have to find that line that runs into the back of your radiator. It is a 19mm. You twist counterclockwise until it comes out, and it's just that simple. So I believe at this point we are ready to remove the radiator. So let's see if I can do this one-handed. I'm sure I can't, but it should lift straight up. And yeah, I definitely can't. So as soon as I get this out, I will take it over here and we are going to swap everything over from the old radiator to the new radiator, and I will show you that as soon as I get there. All right, we're also going to go ahead and disconnect the fan shroud. So the fan shroud is unplugged, and as you can see, there's a little tab right here that actually holds this shroud in. There's also another one on the other side, and all you have to do is push up or push down on the tab and then pull up just a little bit, and it will release, and then you can go to either side and do the same for the other side. I'm going to set you down for just a second here. Just like that. I don't know if I got it, but then your fans should come right out, and while your fans are out, it makes it a lot easier to try to disconnect the radiator. So you just got to wiggle. Again, very hard with one hand, but you wiggle enough, it should come right out. Well, it took a lot longer than I'd like to admit. I had a problem with the right side plastic kind of trim piece over there that I guess they're diversion panels for the radiator. Mine was not connected or loose at the bottom, and it kept getting caught on the bottom of the radiator, and it was just making it a very painful situation to try to get out. I ended up just using some muscle, and it popped right out. I was trying not to break anything though, but luckily I didn't. While you have your radiator out and you're replacing it, now would be a good time to assess any situations down here, get rid of loose debris, whatever you may see down here. Just a good time to really inspect and make sure that everything under, beneath, below, behind your radiator is all in good working order. And if you'd like to clean it, now would be the time. So let's head over to the other radiator and transfer everything. While your radiators are beside each other, now would be a good time to just check and make sure everything seemingly lines up. Everything is roughly the same dimensions. Everything looks the same. You have all your, hoses and lines and everything in the correct place. I will also say that these are where, if you have an automatic transmission, your automatic transmission cooling lines will be. So they are both located on the passenger side of the vehicle, one at the top, one at the bottom. Like I said, they are a 19 millimeter. A 19 millimeter line wrench does work wonders, but a 19 mil wrench works just the same. So they are over here. Since I have a manual transmission, I will not be needing these. They do not supply plugs. I don't think I'll need plugs, but I will go ahead and try to find out the thread pitch and pattern in this and buy plugs myself. So you have to take off, which hopefully, if you didn't have to, great, but you take off your fan shroud, which are, like I said, just these tabs up here, and just a little bit of pressure upwards lets you pull this right off. So we're gonna go ahead and transfer this over. I do think I'm gonna clean this a little bit. It is a little dirty, so I think I will clean this, but it does happen to sit in those tabs right up top. Set that to the side for a second. You also have to grab, you got little rubber feet down here, and they slide right on the new ones. Be sure to grab them from both sides. And you also have your large rubber donuts on either side that go onto the new ones. So once I get this fan shroud cleaned up, I will be right back and show you the install process in reverse. So cleaning that did absolutely nothing besides make me feel a little bit better. But all you have to do is go ahead and transfer it over to the other radiator. Put it on there carefully, try not to hurt any of the fins. And just like before, the radiator happens to slide down in those little pegs. So just go ahead and line it up. Maybe. I just slide down right into those pegs. So, before we put the radiator back in the car, we have to remove those little plastic diversion panels on either side. So, go ahead and grab your panels. And they are connected, or they all are wrapped around, sorry. They're wrapped around this little line right here. And that is what your little snips are for. So, all you're gonna wanna do is go right above that line, those wires, and just snip it across and slide it out. You have to do that on both sides, and they are the same on either side. And it's very hard to do that with one hand. So, when I get them out, I'll show you guys. So all you have to do is just make your little cut right along there, enough to get the wires out, and that's it. I did find it a lot easier. It sits in here like this. To turn it upside down and cut along this just gave me a lot more leverage on the pliers I had, or the 10 snips, whatever you'd like to use to cut through there. Probably wouldn't recommend using a straight razor just in case you nick some of your wires, but all you gotta do is get that off and get the other side off. All right, so we're almost ready to put the radiator back in. I am going to change out my OEM thermostat I believe is OEM thermostat, with a Gates Racing thermostat. So all you have to do, there are 2 bolts on either side of the housing. You just remove those. They are 10 millimeter. And once I remove this, I will show you guys how to change the thermostat. Once that's off there, it's always a good idea, any gasketed or non-gasketed surface, it's always a good idea to clean it off before putting it back together. There was a little bit of corrosion, but you cleaning anything off is going to help prevent leaks or anything further down the line. So just go ahead and grab a clean rag or a cleanish rag and wipe this all off. Make sure nothing's sticking up or real bad. That seems fine. And then do the same thing on the surface of the housing itself. All right, I believe we're ready to install the thermostat. And once I remove the thermostat here, the best way to put this back into the thermostat housing is with this tab and relief valve, as you can see right up top, need to be up. So you want to line it up with this marking right here. That is going to allow the most air to pass through the system. It's also what is recommended. So let me get this installed and we'll go from there. Also, the LS2s are aluminum, so when you're going to tighten any bolts up, no need to show anybody how strong you are. Just snug it and maybe a 1/16 of a degree turn. Make sure it's not loose, but do not over tighten it. That is the worst thing to happen, is to strip one of these aluminum threaded bolts out, and it's a nightmare. So just snug it up and then just a little bit more, and that's all you need, I promise. So now that the thermostat is on, let's go ahead and get our new Mishimoto radiator hoses with the correct clamps and everything in place. We can bring the radiator over and start getting everything reinstalled. So you can obviously skip this part if you didn't buy the Mishimoto radiator hoses. I did, so I'm going to go ahead and get all the clamps on, make sure everything lines up good, make sure it all fits properly, and then we will go ahead and install the radiator. All right. So the correct clamps are on the hoses. It is starting to rain out here, so let's see if we can't get this done any faster. But make sure your fan shroud's installed. Go ahead and pick up your radiator, bring it over to the car, and we're going to install it. All right, and here it is. I got everything installed. Everything went in very smooth. I actually don't have a lower grill, so I was able to push my hand in there and make sure that the radiator went into the little rubber grommets. But now it's the exact same process in taking it out as it is to install it. So all you have to do is pull your AC condenser up, and the new radiator has clips for everything to go into. Your fan gets hooked right back up like that. Your ancillary hoses will be routed back through the fan shroud how they were before and get hooked right back up. And that's about it. Once I get all this hooked back up, I'll show you guys how to hook up the hoses and we can start adding fluid. So after getting your AC condenser snapped back down into these metal tabs or aluminum tabs, I had to bend mine out just a little bit, but when I pushed them back down, I made sure to push the tabs up against the plastic to hold it in there. Now it's time to put back in your radiator stays. And your radiator stays, there's a little lip in the back, so make sure that goes in that lip first. And then once it's rested there, I just used a big screwdriver and push it back down in there. Now your radiator stays are in. So you hook up your fan shroud again. I unplugged that, but you hook up your top line, you hook up your bottom line, and now we're ready to put our hoses on. All right, now that we have everything on, the hoses are installed, upper and lower. The thermostat's in, the bolts are in, you got your hoses, or your lines ran back. Now it's time to reinstall your air intake. Don't forget your tube that attaches to the side of the air intake. And if everything's ready and you are 100% sure that everything is correct, you can go ahead and hook your battery terminal back up. We are going to put coolant into the system. We're going to let the system run, get up to operating temperature, and it is a pressurized system, so any air that is in the system will be burped through your overflow tank, and all you got to do is let it cycle, let it cool completely back down, and then go ahead and check, top everything off, and that's basically it. I will leave a link in the description to how to do this properly, how to fill up your coolant system properly. But I believe all you have to do is fill your coolant or fill your radiator up, and then fill your overflow tank to the cold mark, and like I said, cycle it and top it off when it gets cooled back down. So I will see you in just a second when I have everything back together. All right, so this is what I've decided to go with. This is Prestone. It's the concentrated antifreeze, so most of the time a 50-50 mixture is required of 50% antifreeze and 50% water. Be sure you use distilled water. It is filtered, didn't have any of those harsh minerals and stuff like that that could potentially harm your engine. As well, the Prestone actually has a core guard corrosion inhibitor, so it's going to be better on your motor. Hopefully get away from some of that corrosion, some of that nasty stuff that happens with lesser quality brands. So I will mix this up into 50-50 mixtures. I do have empty gallon jugs of distilled water, so I will mix this up and get ready to put it in the car. Okay, so I made a line. I figured out where halfway was on a gallon. Half a gallon is 8 cups, so that's about right here. I then poured the Prestone concentrate into here up to this line, and then filled the rest with distilled water. So the Prestone jug is also a gallon, so if I used half of that, I can then use the other half that's in the Prestone gallon and filled that with distilled water as well. So now I have 2 full gallons of 50-50 Prestone mixture. So let's get it in here. I believe this system takes a little more than 2 gallons, so I bought an extra one just in case. So let's put 2 gallons in there and see what happens. All right, as you can see, I put the 50-50 mixture in. The motor is on, and I have my heat on full blast. There were little bubbles coming out of there, so I've just topped it off as it's gone down. We've also been squeezing the upper radiator hose, trying to get as much through there as possible. We also put a little bit in the coolant overflow tank. So we're gonna let this sit here, cycle. Bubbles coming out, good. We're gonna let this cycle, get hot. As soon as that thermostat opens, it should start pulling everything through the motor. You might have a little bit of spillage, which is no big deal. Be sure to try to clean off any belt or accessory drives if it does happen to get on anything like that. But that's all you got to do. Once you shut the vehicle off, let it cool back down, and then the next time you take it for a drive and it gets up to operating temperature, once it cools down a little bit, because obviously it's a pressurized system, it's very, very hot, so don't open it. But once it cools down a little bit, go ahead and release that, double check, make sure everything's okay, and you're done. As you guys can see, I have been out driving for about 20 minutes of very spirited driving, and the temp is consistent between 192 all the way down to 187. It really hasn't moved much from there. It starts to creep above 192. Thermostat opens and it goes right back down. So overall, I'm very happy with the install, how everything went. Didn't think it was too terribly hard. It was just tedious. There was a lot of stuff you had to do, but I couldn't be happier. Highly recommended. If you guys have an 04 to 06 GTO, please give Kollar Racing Products a shout out, or go check them out. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you guys have a Facebook, his name is Andrew Kollar. I will also leave that in the description below. Really hook me up. All you got to do is message him. He has deals running constantly, all the time, on everything. Definitely go check out his site if you need any performance upgrades or anything. Just go over there and check him out. That'll be it for this episode, guys. Tune in next time. I believe the next thing will be my B-pillar video install. So look forward to that sometime soon. All right, see you guys later.